Hi all and welcome to my channel, it's Kaz here. I wonder what we're making today. It's a piggy! And not just any piggy, it's a Roly Poly Piggy. So stay tuned. In order for me to show you all the steps needed to make this beautiful piggy, the video is quite long. I apologise for that, so grab a coffee, sit back and enjoy. For this project I'm going to be using some Aran weight yarn, and this is a peach colour yarn that I've got in my stash. Unfortunately I've lost the label a long time ago, but I'm going to go with a peachy shade. I'm going to combine it with a pink. This is an emu Aran yarn and the colour shade is just 129, there's no name on it, but any kind of pale pink and pale peach will work for this project. A light brown like this, mid brown, for the facial details. You're going to need a 22 pin circular knitting machine, a crochet hook, a scissors and a tapestry needle. I-cord maker, you're going to need some 18mm safety eyes, and mine are brown here, and I've also got some of these eyelashes which I'm going to try to see if they work, and these are from AliExpress. Some 12-inch or 30cm long pipe cleaners. And you're going to need some of these bendy rollers, and these are chunky ones. I believe the circumference is about 7.5 centimeters on these, okay, and we'll be cutting it up into little sections. So my caked yarn is on the floor ready to go, and here we are with the tail. So we're going to cast on, over and under, all the way around the bed of the machine. All the way back to the beginning. And like I always say, you always end behind the last needle on whatever machine you use. It'll always be behind the needle, okay? So here we go. I'm going to zero my clock now. And for this project, we're going to be knitting 160 rows. That's 160 rows. Okay, so I'm just going to crank along now and get 160 rows done for this project. And I'll see you very shortly for casting off. Oh, a little tip. If you find that you've only got a certain amount of yarn left with this kind of project where you're going to double up your work, you can always use a similar colour for the liner, okay? So where we're doing 160 rows now, we could do, say, 90 rows in this peach colour and the balance of the knit in a different colour for the liner, which isn't going to be seen because it's going to be tucked inside the work anyway. I do that quite often actually. One, if I'm using a more expensive yarn on the outside, I'll use a less expensive yarn for the inside. 160 rows. I just reached row 90 and I have decided, because this is the only two caked balls I have of this colour yarn, that I am actually going to swap over to a similar colour. It's not dead on, but it's going to be the inside of the project, so it doesn't really matter, like I mentioned earlier. So as you can see, you might not even see this on the camera so much. That's the main body colour, and that's going to be the liner colour now. So again, changing colours is exactly the same. Finish with one colour on your last needle and the new colour on the first needle. Crank forward a few, that's the way I do it anyway, and I add a knot before I forget. And at this point, because we're starting to get a little bit of length on our work, we can gather it up like that to make a little donut in the middle, and then we can carry on cranking to row 160. So I'll definitely see you at row 160 very shortly, okay? So here we are at row 160, and I'm cutting a 12 to 18 inch tail, ready to cast off. Remember that shut your gate, okay, on your yarn feeder there. Make sure that's closed before you start. I like to crank forward, pick up one, One stitch at a time to start off until we get a little bit of slack. And then when you get a little bit of slack, you can pick up a few more at the same time. And there we are, the last stitch, and our work is off the machine. So once the work is off the machine, don't forget, if you have opted to use a different colour to eke out your main yarn, tie those colour joints together. And in the end I ran out of the other colour I used, so I had to use something else. But that's alright, because it's going to be the liner and it's not going to be seen. So tie those together. I opt to do them quite tightly actually, till everything pulls in. And that should be fine. So we turn it back out now and we can stretch our work. I love stretching it. It's really nice. So I'm opting to use this peachy colour, and I hope the camera's picking up the slight differences in shades. Pigs are mostly kind of skin coloured, like the human skin. So I'm going to go for a more skin type colour rather than the normal pink, but go for pink if that's what you'd like to choose, of course. So one end inside the other, exactly like making a beanie, and that's what exactly we're going to do. We're going to make a beanie. So let's crack on and make a beanie. If you know how to make a beanie already, then you're fine and dandy, you can skip forward. If you've never done one before, just do what I just did there, fold one end inside the other, and I cinch the inner part of that tube first. And I sometimes put my finger in there to guide the stitches and guide the folds, like that, till you've got a nice even cinch around and no funny little shapes that sometimes occur when you're cinching quite a large piece of knitted fabric together. Same then with the outer one, cinch that. And with this one, don't be too fussy about leaving a hole or not leaving a hole. I'm not going to be too bothered about it on this one, because in one of the next stages we're going to be covering that hole altogether anyway. So I'm going to snip that off like that, and as I'm working at the moment, this is the inside of the work. I need to check that I've not got any strange bunching going on, and that's fine. I'm not worried about the hole, like I said, and that will be explained very shortly. So I'm just going to tie mine off with a nice double knot or even a triple knot. Sometimes I wrap around twice like that, and that's done. I'm not even going to trim my tails off because that's the inside of the work. So there's my knitted work here. Okay, and that's it basically. We've got a very nice beanie at the moment, a long one, but technically if you roll that up you've got a beanie, but it's not a beanie today. So let's move on now and make some of the other parts for this delightful project. So now we're going to make one of the legs, and we need to make 4 of these altogether. So with my main body colour, which is peach in my case, we're going to cast on as normal all the way around the bed of the machine, back to the beginning, and we are going to knit 10 rows. So 10 rows in the body colour. Okay, so do your 10 rows. There we are, that's real time for you. 10 rows done already, isn't that fantastic? Snip that off and get the contrasting colour then that you've chosen to use, and I'm using this pink like I've showed you already. The same colour that I've used for the snout is what I'm going to be using for the bottom of my little trotters. Okay, so change the colour hold them together for a few couple of stitches, tie off like that, and then knit another 5 rows, so 15 rows then in total for the legs and feet. And you need to make 4 of these, okay? So we go over there at 15 already. These are really nice and quick to knit up. Snip that off, and we're going to cast off now. Usual cast off method. Crank it forward, and I do one at a time for the first, say, 3 or 4, and then I move on to doing a few more. As the slack builds up there, you get a little bit more leeway to take a few more off than one. And sometimes you might get this, I get it occasionally, where the one stitch isn't quite in the right place. Just reverse a little bit and then pop your needle underneath, and you can get that stitch off there, no problem at all. So there's one of our little legs and trotters done, so do another 3. So moving on to preparing the 4 little legs and hooves. This is one of our knitted pieces, and remember to secure your colour joins if you opt to have different colours for yours. And I'm just going to do mine now, so tie it rather tightly with an extra knot, and then trim it to about 1 centimetre long, and then that goes in my scrappy dappy pile. So stretch out your work, and we are going to cinch the end of 5 rows, okay, because that's going to be the bottom of our hoof, and we're going to close that off as we normally do. Okay, so grab your tapestry needle like that, and you can either go around in a circle sealing off, or I'm just going to do a quick version. I'm just going to put a quick stitch in there like that, okay? That's my go-to at the moment, but by all means go around and do a neat job of tying all those little stitches together for a second time. That will do me absolutely fine for what my purposes today. So snip that one off because we don't need that one. Keep that little tail, you might need it for something later, or put it in your scrap pile. And now we are going to cinch the other side. And we're going to be cinching this partially, like we did for my Roly Poly Pussycat. I don't always do a waste yarn cast off. I sometimes think this is a bit of a cheats version of getting a similar effect, and once it's sewn on you don't even see it. Okay, so I'm going to grab my ruler now because we need to cinch this to about 4 centimeters. So that's about 5, so I need to take it in a little bit more and even out those stitches as you are cinching in, okay, like that. And when it's roughly about 4 centimeters wide along the cinch there, where are we now? That's about 4. I can pull it in just a tad more by eye, and I'm happy with that. Make sure everything's tucked in as neatly as possible, and we're just gonna put a slip stitch or an overcast stitch along the top there with our tail. And we need to do this for the other 3 legs and feet as well. All the way across the top end there like that, and we can finish with a knot. Leave the tail on because if it's long enough we can use that for attaching to our underside of our little piggy wiggy. Right, now the next step, this is the fun bit, okay? Now, you know I mentioned the these rollers, okay? Now they come with a little clip on either end like that, okay? So there's the little clip. So you need to push that back like that and get the clip off, okay? And then you can pull the wire out all the way, or just like I did, snip it off in sections, okay? Now it is getting caught there. All right, so what we need to do is to measure. I'm going to pull the wire all the way out. Now keep that wire because it is a nice bendy craft wire, and all crafters, we keep everything, don't we, to one side. I don't even know why that's there. Let's move that. So there's our bendy curler. You can leave the metal in. If you want to cut the metal and leave it in, you can do if you want to. I'm opting not to. I'm just going to use the rubber. I think that's going to be sufficient. So measure your little leg because with yarn and tension you could be slightly different, so I'm going to eyeball mine and give you my measurements, which is roughly about 6 centimeters. Okay, so I'm going to mark mine by eye, but I'm going to tell you it's about 6 centimeters. So a little gouge on there like that, and I'm going to grab my scissors and I'm just going to chop right through that rubber like that. Now technically we should be able to get 4 out of one of these curlers, which is really good going. Now then, what we need to do, oh, just a quick thing, when I told you to cut that tail off, don't. I just made an error there. You actually need to leave that tail on because we're going to use that for stitching up our leg. So that's my little bit of a faux pas there. So leave that tail on, don't snip it off. So pop your little rubber grommet in the middle there like that and fold your work around it. Now, unlike me, who has not got a tail left there, you'll have a tail. Alright, so I'm going to attach my tail now with a knot. Silly me. So imagine now, right, okay, I never made that error. I told you to leave the tail intact, okay? There we go, there's my tail. It was there all the time. So there's our little rubber noggin, and all we need to do now is to mattress stitch up the length of our work all the way from the top to the bottom, hopefully sticking to the same line. And then you'll find as you pull that mattress stitch, it will pull in the work around that rubber section there. I haven't tried this with just plain stuffing. I'm sure it would probably work, but I had these in my stash of bits and bobs, and I actually picked these up in a car boot sale for 40p, and I thought, oh crikey, I'll have those, because the ones I've seen in the shops are the thinner type, but I'm sure online you can find these larger, thicker type ones. So like I said, I'm whittling on now a bit, whittering rather. Let's go all the way up to the top with our mattress stitch, and then pull that mattress stitch in. Hopefully it'll cinch all the way up, not too bad at all. And pull your work a little bit around there. I maybe could have done with cutting this one a little bit shorter. There we go. And then finish up all the way at the top like that. No need to seal the top off. You can if you want to, I guess, but there's no need because it's going to be attached to the underside of our piggy body. There you go, not too bad a job at all. So fasten that off now with a knot, and this is where you can actually get rid of your tail, bury it and chop it off. Okay, so you need to do that now with the rest of the legs. And next we're moving on to preparing the ears, and now I know why that was on my table, because it's for the ear. So don't forget to tie your colour joins together if you've opted for 2 colours. So another knot and snip off to about 1 centimetre. Excellent stuff, and that's done. Now then, for the ears we are going to cinch one end like that, because that's going to be the inner part of the ear, okay? And again we're going to tie that off and seal that hole all the way up. Again, I'm just going to put a little stitch in there, but you can by all means go through and do every stitch in a circle if you want to. Pull that around there that time, and I'll tie it off at the back this time. So many different ways to do these things. Everybody's got their own way of doing things. Snip that off, job done. Now then, we're going to cinch the other end. Okay, but not all the way. We need to leave a little bit of a gap. Okay, and this is where our bendy wire comes in. Okay, so cinch it up because we need to know roughly the size. You can leave a little hole if you want to. Okay, so this is our bendy wire. So like I said, depending on your yarn and your tension and so forth, I can't give you an exact dimension, but wrap it around like that so it's kind of inside your work, like that. Okay, does that make sense? So wrap it around like that until you've got a loop of your pipe cleaner like that, and then loop the pipe cleaner around the circle like that. You don't have to do this, but it does add a little bit of dimension to our piggy's ears, because piggy's ears are quite unique, and I love the shape of a piggy's ears. Beautiful creatures, very, very intelligent. So we're going to wrap that around, making sure that that pointy end is tucked well in there so you've got no sharp edges, okay? You could even put a little bit of tape or something around there if you were concerned. All right, now we're going to slot this in the back of our work. Okay, like that. Just pop it in. Pop it in, pop it in. It will be movable once you cinch up. And again, we're going to cinch up the back. Now we've got that little piece of circular bendy wire in place. So, cinch up. And again for me, lazy way, just a couple of knots for me. And that's me done. Sorted. Now leave the tail on, and as we did for the Roly Poly Pussycat, we're going to shape our ears now. We're going to move up so that we've got a rim of the body colour, and the inner then is a little bit more shifted up to the top. And at this point now we can start shaping our ears a little bit. We can push that out to the sides like that and move that up to the top. And with a little bit of manipulation and twiddly widdlies, we get a lovely shaped piggy ear, like that one, you see. And then you'll have two lovely little piggy ears, which have got a lovely piggy ear shape, in my opinion anyway. And you can mould them to a certain extent, okay? Bearing in mind now, ages of children, if you are going to be giving this as a gift to a child, make sure that they're age appropriate, okay? Because this is more of it's not a toy, this is more of an ornament that you'd pop on a shelf and enjoy. So there's the piggy ears ready to go. Now the snout is going to be made up of two pieces, and on your 22 pin machine you need to cast on with waste yarn, knit 10 rows in your body colour, or whichever colour you choose, and cast off with waste yarn. And now what we're going to do is we're going to seal the tube closed. Okay, if you know how to do this already, then you can skip ahead, but if not, I'm just going to run through this quickly. We need to put our cast on and cast off edges together, if I can find them. There we go, like that. And what we're going to do, exactly like sealing a tube, but now we need to move around and seal this off. Make sure our tails are where they should be, all out there like that. So grab the corresponding stitch from one side and the corresponding stitch from the other side, like that, and pull it through. Okay, and then we're going to zigzag then top to bottom, all the way around back to the beginning, and pull our tails through to finish off. So that's stage one of the snout. Okay. All the way around in this zigzaggy motion. So finish that now, and I'll see you for preparing the other part of the snout. Once you're back at the beginning, then just pull your tails through and remove your waste yarn. So I've moved the machine into the centre so it's a little easier to see, and we've knitted our 10 rows. Now what we're going to do is we're going to cast off in a particular way, and I'm going to be using a contrasting pink yarn for this. So I've got a length of yarn probably about 45 centimetres long. So to cast off, what we normally do is crank forward and use the tail, but we're not using the tail, we're using this on our darning needle instead. So leave the tail flop down and just cast off 11 needles using your little bit of yarn on a darning needle. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's 8 needles. 9, 10, oops, and 11. Okay, so that's that one cast off with that length of yarn. So pop that over there like that, and we're going to grab the other half of our yarn. And again, I've got another length of about 45 centimetres long. I think this one's a little too long, so I'm going to chop it off somewhat. And now we're going to cast off the rest of the bed, another 11 needles. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Don't pull it all the way through, you need a tail, okay? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. There we go. So pull that tail through. And now we'll move on to seeing what we do with this. So here's our messy little 10-row piece. So stretch out the work as best you can, because it is rather fiddly, and cinch in the side that you cast on with. Okay, so find the tail of that. Found the tail, yes. So cinch that partially up, which kind of centers the work a little bit, gives it a little bit more structure. Not all the way, you don't need to do it all the way, just partially will be fine. There we go, partially cinched. So that'll be great for now. And what we're going to do with the other end is we're going to section off our tails. So we have 2 tails there, our pink tail and our other 2 tails the other side. Okay, so that's what we've got at the moment. So pull those tails in like that. Now we're going to cut them a little shorter. Cut that one a little shorter, and we're going to cut that one a little shorter. Okay, so that's what we've got, 2 halves of the circle cast off. There's 2 ends and 2 ends, so you've got the 2 ends there threaded through and threaded through. Okay, so we are going to cinch these, like I say, because I want to get away from the cinched area that you get when you do cinch, as we're all used to that, and the way the back is going to look then. Okay, I don't want that kind of look on this one. So we need that pink tail because we're going to have to put a few rescue stitches in, I think. And then again, cinch this one in, push in those little bobbly bits inside, and tie that together. And hopefully, if my plan works out, we should have what looks like 2 little nostrils and a little gap in the middle, which we can put a few stitches in. That's my cunning plan. So we can tie that off now like that with 2 knots. Job done. And the same the other side, and then we can push those tails to the back, out of sight. Let's make sure that's cinched properly before we put a double knot in it. Great stuff. Now then, let's put those tails to the back, and let's see if my little plan has come together here, or whether it's a complete bust. Hopefully it'll come together. So let's put those, oh actually we have got a gap, so we can feed those tails through that gap. And hopefully we'll be able to stitch up the difference with our leftover pinky tail. Right, let's pull those through there like that. All those lovely pink tails coming through to the back. There we go, sorted. Now then, if there is a little bit of a residue of pink there, actually I think it's going to look like nostrils. So I won't cut those off yet. Like I said, we are kind of doing this together. Let's see if we can cinch anything in there to pull that in. No, we can't. So we're going to have to put our pink tail on a darning needle. Like that. And we're going to have to put a few little stitches in the middle there like that. Now we can do it from the inside or the outside. Let's try and do it from the inside then. So turn the work inside out. You're working with me now, okay? Because I'm kind of doing this off the cuff. Let's see what we get together. Imagine the mess I'd make if I did a live. Oh, crikey. Right, so stitch across that little gap there from behind. And then any dodgy stitches will get missed. My dodgy stitches, by the way. There we go. I'm not going to cut the tail off yet. I'm going to check my work on the right side to see if that's looking okay. Yeah, that's looking reasonably okay. You can see what I'm getting at. I didn't want that center cinch. I wanted like a nostril-y look either side. A little bit of pink there, not bothered because you're going to be putting some nostrils in later anyway. So I'm kind of happy with that. I might leave my tail on just for a moment just to make sure everything is properly sealed up. Let me put a couple of extra stitches in there like that, and then I might actually tie off. Yeah, I'm happy with that. A knot, a snip, and I think we can even snip these off now as well. We don't need those anymore either. Let's snip all that waste off, and then we are just left with cinching that in at the back there like that, as we normally do. So that worked out rather well, didn't it, for a cold run? Well, so far anyway. Right, so I'm going to cinch that up, if it'll allow me to, because I think it's caught somewhere. Why, I don't know. So I'm going to pop a few extra stitches in there just to pull that in. It's not going to be seen anyway because it's going to be going on the inside of the other piece of work. But again, I'm sharing with you my disasters as well as my successes. And I'm all for recovering from disasters if I can. I don't like wasting anything. So I'm going to tie that off, and I'm going to even leave it scruffy with that little bit of a fluffy lump on the back end, alright, because it doesn't matter. So fluff it out until you get that shape. See what I'm getting at? That's what I was after, was that kind of shape. Okay? Rather than the cinchy look, I wanted two like little nostril looks like that, and that is absolutely perfect. Now we just need to attach it on to our other piece of work. So this is the section we had last time. I shall snip that off and use the other tail, because that's a longer tail. I'm going to push that in there like that. That's a motorcycle idiot going down the street. So there we go. There we go. Now I move my tail to the top end there, and we're going to pop that on there like that, and we're going to sew it in place. So now you can see what I'm getting at is a bit of a raised snout. Okay, so mattress stitch now between the edge there and the edge on your work, all the way around to secure that in place. I'm quite pleased with that. See what it looks like on our front of our piggy, if it makes it look really piggy-ish. Fingers crossed. are, back at the beginning, so it's lining up really nicely as well, looking quite snouty actually, quite pleased with it. So we're going to finish off now the last couple of stitches. And then we can start with the assembly process of our pig. I'm going to put that on the back end and I'm going to tie off with a knot at the rear. And there's our little snout done there like that. Isn't that cute? That was the plan, kind of, to have it flat and flat there and then snouty there. One little finishing touch which can be done now before attaching is to put the little snout details on, and these little pink markers now are giving us a really good indication of where to put them. So we are going to put so I'm threading from the back like that because it's easier. I can tie off at the back and not have to worry about snipping off later. And I'm going to put some horizontal stitches like that. Okay, just down like that to make it look like nostrils. Like that. Maybe 3 or 4 passes to get a thick enough nostril shape. And I've caught my tail there. So let's pull that out. So watch you don't cut your tails. I left mine on at the moment. We're sewing up, so that's 3. Actually, we can do it that way. Move it over like that. That's 4. And that's looking really nice. So there's our little nostril done. So I'm going to take mine over now and I'm going to do the same the other side. Those little pink dots give us a great idea of where to put our little nostrils there. So same thing. Few passes until you've got a nostril that you're happy with. So 1, 2, 3, and hopefully 4 passes will be enough to cover that like that. There you go, I'm happy with that. So I'm going to take mine back down there to the back. Job's a good one. Feed it through there like that because it won't be seen. Just double checking that nothing is going to be seen on the front there, and I'm going to tie it off and call that a day. There we go, I caught my tail again. So I'm going to tie that off. I'm not even going to trim it too short or feed it in, because it's all going to be hidden now when we attach it to our piggy face. Great. So snip that off. Snip that off. And there is our little piggy snout. Now that is looking really good in my humble opinion, and I'm sure it'll look better once we attach it onto our piggy wigs. Now for the curly whirly tail, if you check out my video on making I-cord with the Prim I-cord maker, that's what I've done here, okay? And my little tail is approximately 20 centimeters long. And as I was cranking my I-cord maker, of course I was adding my bendy wire. So check out the video on how to make bendy I-cord while you knit, and that will show you how I made the tail. And the surprising thing is I wanted to add is this is actually Aran weight yarn, and cranking slowly and watching each needle go down, which didn't take too much extra time, it actually worked perfectly fine, because up until now I've only ever used DK yarn. So that was great. To start assembly of our sweet little piggy, let's put a drawstring around the opposite end of our beanie shape. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. And I like to go under 2 and over 2, under 2 and over 2, all the way around. And here we are, back to the beginning, drawstring in place, and now we need to find out where we're going to place our eyes. Now I found this ball of yarn when I was making the Roly Poly Pussycat very, very handy when trying to figure out where to put the eyes. So I'm going to pop that in the bottom now. You can do it with stuffing if you like, but this was a lot easier to work with. So I'm going to push that right down the bottom of my work and try and even out those gathers there. And that is kind of going to give me an idea of where my face is going to be stuffed to. Now then, the eyes, where the eyes go is dependent on where the snout goes. Okay, and again, I'm winging this pattern, guys. The first time I've ever made one, it was in my head, it had to come out, so it's on film at the same time. So position your snout roughly where you want it to go. I'm going to pin mine roughly in place. This may not be its final resting place, but it'll be as close as it'll possibly be. Okay, so now you can see that's looking kind of piggy. Lovely. So if we use that as our guide, we're going to grab our eyes, and it depends on where you want your eyes. I mean, you may want your eyes close together like that. I've seen some, you know, stuffed animals or stuffed creatures like this done with close together eyes. You might want them more further apart. So placing the eyes is going to be down to you, but I'll give you where I'm going to roughly place mine, which I think will be something like that. And this is a really good way to place eyes. I gotta be honest, I would highly recommend it. Put a ball of yarn inside the end of your work and work like that, because it's easy to pull out, not as fiddly as lumps and lumps of stuffing getting stuck everywhere. So I've positioned my snout smack bang really in the center of the cinched area there. Okay, so pop your snout on, okay, and then position your eyes. And mine are approximately 5 centimeters apart from the inner to the inner, and approximately a centimeter or centimeter and a half up, again at a 45 degrees, very much like the Roly Poly Pussycat, 1.5 centimeters up, 45 degrees like that. Now whether or not these eyelashes are going to work well, I don't know, but that adds a kind of a piggy look, because pigs do have beautiful eyelashes. Whether or not they're black, I'm not sure, but this is all I've got on hand at the moment. We could even trim them down if they were a little long, I guess. I'm not sure whether I'm going to use them yet, but this is when I'm going to put my eyes, whether I'm going to use the eyelashes or not. So fix your eyes, and then we'll move on to stuffing the main body of our Roly Poly Piggy. So I have attached my eyes, and there they are, looking lovely and brown. Okay, so let's stuff our work now. So I've got a pile of stuffing here to my right, and I'm going to fluff mine up a little bit because it's been in the packet. And we're just going to keep an eye on those tails so they don't pop out where we added the drawstring. And we're going to stuff our work and try and even out as many of those folds as we can at the front there. Okay, same as we did for the Roly Poly Pussycat. Try and even those folds out as much as we can with a little bit of stuff in there. Okay, so put your cup of your hand on there and push into it like that, and wiggle those joins out and get them a little bit smoother than they were. That's looking much better already. So push the stuffing out until you're happy with that, and then stuff the rest of your work. Checking for any divots and low bits. You want to get this as even as possible. Okay, there's a low bit there, so I need to even up my stuffing. So push and pull and twist and wiggle until you're happy with your stuffing, okay? So I finished stuffing mine now. I think that's about as good as I can get him. So I'm going to cinch up my ends, and there's the end there all stuffed. I'll partially cinch and then decide whether I do need to add a little bit more in that bum section, and indeed I do. So I'm going to add a little bit more in there like that, a little bit there in the rear end. There's my dogs barking again. I cannot do a video without my dogs barking. It's absolutely impossible. Sometimes I manage to edit it out not to annoy you, and other times I don't. Right, so now we are going to tie this together like that till we get a nice tight cinch, and any little hole that's left afterwards we can add a few stitches in there to finish that off. And tying a knot when you've only got one pair of hands is not always easy, but I do sometimes wrap the yarn around to hold it in place like that before tying the second knot, and that may or may not hold it, but if not, like I said, we can add a few stitches in there or even run the yarn around again as a second little drawstring to pull that in tighter. So I have got a little hole in the bottom end of mine, so I'm going to add a few stitches to close that up, and then I'll bury my tails, and then we can move on to doing all the fun bits, which is adding all the details that we've already made. Okay, so I'm just going to pop a few stitches in there. I'm not going to be too precious about it. Through there, so we can snip off and move on. For the next stage, we are indeed going to move on to placing the muzzle on the front of our piggy, and we have the tail left. If you don't have a tail, just cut a new piece. And my tail's a little bit low down, so I'm going to thread mine up to the outer edge there, and then I can use it for stitching. Though I'm going to start stitching on the bottom so I can hide my knot. Okay, now as I mentioned, I placed my little muzzle in between the eyes there, like that. Okay, I don't know if you can see. And where I said to move your seam on the inside, mine has shifted slightly, but it's not the end of the world. By the time we stitch it up, it'll be fine. It's such a small piece. Right, okay, so we're going to put a pin in there like that. There's a little crease there, it's putting me off centering, I think. There we go, a little pin there and a little pin the other side. Like that. Okay, so that's what I'm opting for. In between the eyes as near as we can, like that. Okay, so it's kind of central over that cinched area really, like I said before. So I'm going to start stitching that now from underneath, where my yarn tail has come out. Oh, it's actually there. So we're going to stitch, hope you can see. And like I always say, I like to grab a little bit of stuffing when I'm stitching on. It gets a little bit stronger on the fixing if you do. And again, I'm not really worried too much about grabbing 2 stitches at a time. I'm a little bit on a lazy side when it comes to mattress stitching, but it works for me, and I hope if you try it, it works for you too. So try and keep this section straight. It will splay a little. Digging down and grabbing that stuffing. Check your positioning as you work around to make you sure that you're happy when everything is sitting. And keep checking that you're not shifting out of place too much. We are going to add a little bit of stuffing in there shortly, but we're going to stitch so far around first. We get a nice little muzzle. You can see the muzzle sticking out there like that, which is what we're headed for. And let's check the placement. When we come around now, that'll straighten out a little bit, so that's looking pretty good so far. Now we're coming around back to the bottom, so it's nearly time to add a little bit of stuffing. Squidge it up into a bit of a ball. and pop it in there like that. And you can check your stuffing levels with the last centimetre or so, just to make sure that you're totally happy with it. There's our little piggy snout. I'm happy with mine, so I won't be adding any more. There we are, we're almost back to where we started from. Put that mattress stitch in. And I'm finished. I'm going to add a little knot. And then bury my tails. That's a job done. Oops, he falls to the floor. So there's our little piggy snout. You can see that's ever so cute, looking kind of piggy-ish. But make sure that it's as central as possible. I'm a little bit out, if I'm perfectly honest, but I can live with that. I'm sure you can do a better job than I've done here. Next you're going to add the ears that we've already made, and here's one little piggy little ear, and my tail is sitting at the bottom ready to go. If you haven't got a tail, just cut a piece of yarn to do what you want to do to stitch on. Now the same as with a Roly Poly Pussycat, we're going to be working like a 45-degree angle all the way up, okay? Same here. That's kind of where I work. My nose is a little bit squidgy. Ooh, that's annoying. Anyway, so take the ear up past the eye and then stick it wherever you fancy putting it. I kind of think mine are going to be okay there. So let's stick them in place. And then we'll see what we've got. This one needs to be shaped a little bit more like the other one. It's exactly the same size, exactly the same make on it. So now when we add these ears, then you can see, doesn't that look divine? So we just need to stitch those on. I'm thinking that by the time I'm stitched on, let's have a look, they're probably going to be about 10 centimeters apart across the top of the head. That's where I'm kind of heading. Okay, so if we kind of pin these into place, we're kind of looking for that kind of shape like that. So let's start. And again, like I always say, don't forget to check your work as you go. Okay, so I'm going to put a stitch into the bodywork there like that. There we go, cool. And then back into the bottom of the ear like that. Bearing in mind we've got wire in this ear if you opt to use the wire, okay, which is adding a lot of character to the ears. Sorry, I've got to hold it against my front at the moment to balance it because it's so long. So bear with me a sec. So you know how to mattress stitch, and if you don't, there are lots and lots of videos online purely on mattress stitching, but I do show a little bit of it here, my way of doing it anyway. So keep positioning and altering and adjusting as you stitch, because you can always unpick if you get something a little bit wrong. There's no harm in doing that. I unpick quite a lot. So mattress stitch all the way around, down and up. And again, if I find it needs 2 lots of mattress stitching around, I will do that. Now that's holding quite nicely there with one mattress stitch, and we've not even bent it into a better shape yet because we've got the wire there. So pull that mattress stitch back into there like that, and I'm going to leave my tail on at this stage just in case I decide to put another round of mattress stitching on the ear. And there you can see, pull that pin out, that's the ear in place already. Now we can form that ear a little bit better, and we can push it to lovely little shapes, okay, like that, using that little bit of wire in there. But bearing in mind, if you do opt to use the wire, okay, that if you're going to give it to a child, there's obviously those limitations there, and especially with these safety eyes as well, okay, so bear that in mind. This is just purely like an ornament, okay. So I'm going to attach the other ear now, and I'll be with you very soon. And here is our piggy with the ears attached. I love it. That is really piggy, isn't it? Really, really piggy-fied. So now we need to move on to adding the feet and the tail. and we're more or less done. But before we do that, I'm going to attempt to put some little eyelashes on mine, and I have found a way of using this fuzzy yarn, the one that I used for testing where the eyes were. If I can find the end of it, there we go. This it's like a snowflake yarn. So if you cut a length of that, let's see if this is going to work. Again, I am doing this, I've done it once on a little project. I can't share that project with you yet because that's going to be one of my next videos, but it worked as a bit of a surprise on that one. So let's see if it'll work on this one. Now, piggies have got lovely eyelashes. The eyelashes I had that I was going to use, these ones were too much. They were too silly, so in my opinion. So I'm going to use this, and let's see what we come up with. So we're going to come up from the side there like that, and we're going to come to as close as we can to the top of the eye there, like that. Okay, so that's your entry point and that's your exit point. So leave a tail, and then we're going to come down like that, down there towards the far right of the eye, I guess, and back out, if I can show you where you started from. And it's as simple as that. Okay, now then, hopefully this is where the magic will begin. By pulling that like that, bear with me a sec, and what we get now, if we arrange the little fluffy bits, look at that, you get little eyelashes. Do you see? So all we need to do now is to tie that off there, and again, this is an optional extra. You don't have to add little eyelashes to your pig if you don't want to, but if you want to add eyelashes to any project, you can do it with some snowflake or eyelash yarn, or what, I can't remember what it's called, but this is little white fluffy stuff that goes through the machine really nice and gives you a kind of a fuzzy finish to your projects. And I'm going to leave those on there, and there's a little close-up for you to see what that little eyelashy look looks like. I think it's cute. I think it adds to the project, and that's what it looks like close up. So tie these off now and hide the tails inside, and just do the other eye if you opt to do that optional extra. Adding some cute little eyelashes. And there we go. So let's just hide our tails now inside the work, as you do with all our tails really. So in through the same hole and pop it out anywhere really. And the same with the other one. If it'll come off my needle. There we go. That one's a little short, so I need to put the needle in first and then thread through to pull it through. So if you want to do that now with yours, carry on and do the other one, and then we'll move on to attaching the feet next, I think. So a little pig can stand up properly. My stuffing pile. So fluff that out there so it disappears. And doesn't that, oh, and doesn't that look cute? Little eyelashes. So if you use my little eyelash idea, don't forget to tag me. I'd love to see what project you use those little eyelashes on. Okay, Crafty Kaz 33 on Instagram, Kaz Harris on the knitting groups. I'm not on all the knitting groups, but some. So let's move on to adding the legs onto our beautiful pig now with some gorgeous little eyelashes. So we are going to put the seam of each leg facing inwards. Okay, so it's not going to be seen. So we need to position them underneath our pig like that. So place the seam facing inwards like that, and more or less in line with the eye there. It's difficult to show you, but if I do it like that, that might make more sense to you. Okay, so we're going to place them like that underneath the pig, and my measurements, if I hold him there like that, just to give you an idea, this little foot is going to be approximately 9 centimeters from where the muzzle, bottom of the muzzle is. Okay, so about 9 centimeters to that point there. 8 to 8.5, 9, something like that will be about right. So what we need to do now is just stitch it in place. It's going to be difficult to pin into place, but we are going to try. So I've got my little pins here, if I can grab them. there we are, through that foam, and we can kind of pin it into place. Now I don't know whether I've left a long enough tail on this one, but I can always just dip around once and then do it again. So the same story really, we are just going to mattress stitch between the body and the top edge of the leg all the way around, and again, if I think it needs 2 rounds of mattress stitch, I will indeed do that, and I did with the ears actually go around twice, just to let you know. So digging down again into that stuffing if you possibly can, and running along the very top edge of those stitches there, pulling that mattress stitch as I go all the way around. It doesn't take many stitches at all really to get a good fixing. And continue now and fit the other one. I will indeed leave my tail like I did last time, but if you're happy with yours you can knot and hide the tail inside the work. So with the seam again now facing that way, okay, we are going to place it under the pig like that. Okay, so try and get it as symmetrical as you can with the top end of your pig. You can even stand him up if you want to and see how he's going to look. And this little piggy is looking really nice. He's nicely lifted off the floor, and I think he's going to stand really well actually. I'm quite impressed with that. So I'm going to stitch mine in place, and to give you an idea, it's going to be something like that. I hope that helps. Okay, so we're looking at something like that. Okay, kind of pointing face downwards straight onto the tabletop. And I'm going to pinch the pin out of that one because we've more or less finished, and pop it into there. So then I can grab my tail and put that on my needle. Different legs altogether to the Roly Poly Pussycat. So carry on stitching all the way around, and I'll see you very soon. And I'm happy with that, so I'm going to knot that one off and hide my tail inside the work. So let's move on now to doing the rear ones. So there's our front little leggies attached. So now it's time to attach the rear legs, and what we're going to do is position them in line with those legs there. Okay, so follow them from the front legs all the way back like that, and they're going to be parallel and equidistant from each other. And I'm going to be positioning mine, let's get the rule of you here, about 13 to 14 centimeters from front to back. All right, 13 to 14 centimeters will be about right. So stitch those on now, and then we move on to stitching on the tail. Remember to have those seams facing inwards. Okay, so here's our Roly Poly Piggy. And he's standing on his own. Now I must stress, when you're sewing on the legs, okay, to really dig down into that stuffing like that when you're taking the stitch down and then back up, okay, and that will make the leg strong enough in order to support the pig. And if you go around twice, even better, okay, and that's the kind of stiffness you want with the leg. You don't want the leg flopping around. That's really quite firmly attached there now, as you can see. Okay, there's movement of course, but you know, they're quite stable. So there's the legs attached, and we can attach the tail now. So let's get our tail. So here's the tail I've already made. It's a long piece of I-cord, and just to re-measure it for you, it is approximately 20 centimeters long. The one end has been tied off, that's the cast on end on the machine, and I was surprised when I tried this Aran weight yarn in it. I took my time and it actually went through with no problems whatsoever, really taking my time, and it was just right to do this because I didn't have anything in a DK in order to do this tail in exactly the same colour. So I'm going to thread that tail end there through there like that and snap that off. And with the tail that we've got on the cast off end, we are going to attach it to the bottom end of our pig. So let's just stitch it in place. Again, it's going to be mattress stitch. Difficult to show you because of the angle I'm at. Let's have a go. Let's just put the mattress stitch in there like that. Let's get a stitch, any stitch to start us off. There we go. Great, that'll do it. You can see the bottom of my wire is sticking out there, so I have to stitch over that in order to make it safe. So be careful of that if you do opt to use the wire. I'm going to face that inside there. Like I've already said, this is more of an ornament. It's not a toy, it is an ornament, not to be played with. If you do want to make one for a young person, remember not to use the wire and to embroider on the eyes, and anything that is removable or could fall off, make sure that it's embroidered or stuck on really, really well. So stitch your tail into place on the back end there. So carry on and stitch your tail all the way up from the cinched area. I'm going to be stitching up approximately 3 centimeters. Okay, so that's what I'm going to be doing. 3 centimeters up and 3 centimeters back down. That's looking pretty good. Now I've got a little bit of my metal piece showing through there to be perfectly transparent with you, so I'm going to put a few stitches over that to cover that up. There we go. I'm kind of happy with that, so I'm going to take my yarn down the bottom and pull it through. That should be sufficient, but I've got enough of a tail here if I decide I want to go around it twice. Put that to the right. So what we need to do now is we need to curl it into a little piggy wiggy tail. So curl it around and curl it around like that into whatever tail you want. And there's his little curly whirly piggy tail. There you go, curly whirly piggy tail. Now we have 2 things to do in order to finish our piggy, and this is optional, you don't have to do them. I've got a length of mid-brown colour DK yarn here, and what we're going to do on the legs here, if you want to add a split in the leg there, okay, go from the back where the colours join and push your needle right through that foam to the front like that, okay, and pull that through, leave a tail, wrap it around the front like that, back to the back and back through the same hole. Hopefully if you're lucky you'll find the same hole that you travelled through before and you won't have to push quite so hard. A little bit of foam come off there, that's fine. Aim that right down the middle like that, okay, and pull it tight and then wrap it around once more like that, and then you can tie it off with that piece there and then bury the tails. Put that there for a sec. Let's tie that off. Fingers and thumbs at the moment. So tie that off at the back there, right at the bottom, lining up those pieces of string. If you use a thicker yarn, you may only need to do 1 pass, or you could do 3 passes if you want a thicker looking split there like that, and then all you do is just bury your tails in there like that and then snip it off. Pull that down there like that. Snippy snip snips. Snippy snips. There we go. And do that for every hoof. If you want that little bit of extra detail there, do that to every one of the feet. Okay, but you don't have to. It's just something that adds a little bit of extra. And here is our pig so far. He has his little hooves all identified here on each of his little feet. Need to move that one over a little bit. There you go. So he's done. Now then, technically he's done, But going from Babe, who has inspired this Roly Poly Piggy, I believe Babe has a little tuft of brown hair on the top of his head there. So we're going to do that now, but only do that if you want to. So in order to do the hair, I'm going to be using this last little bit of brown DK that I have. And I'm going to be cutting them into, let's have a look. I don't think the hair is very long, so let's cut it into, say, 8 centimeter length, something like that, okay? So 8, we're going to double that up to like 15 or 16. Let's call it 15. So 15 centimeters, and I am going to just take 15 centimeters there, and I'm going to double up and double up and double up and double up, so I get lots and lots of lengths of 15. Now if you want to cut a piece of card and wrap it around that, then by all means do that. Okay, so I'm just going to do it roughly like that. Hasn't got to be written in stone, hasn't got to be super exact. So I don't know how many I'm going to do. I'll see how much this yarn will give me. I think it's not an awful lot, but it is the very last of this brown that I have. So in many ways I'm being economical and using up my scraps as well, which is really good. Here we go, we're coming to the end of it now. I don't have to use all of it, of course, but here we are, we're right at the end, and we've got a little bit of a piece. So what we're going to do is cut through these strands here like that, cut through those, so we'll end up with some lengths of 15 centimeters long or thereabouts. So that one is obviously didn't get cut, so let's cut that one in half and we'll use that first. There we go. So what we're going to do is, you can do it with a needle or a crochet hook, and make sure that it's in half and you've got a little loop there on the top, and pick where you want to put your little tuft of hair. So I'm going to put mine right in between the ears there like that. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to start there and I'll put my hook in anywhere, it doesn't matter where really, grab that yarn and pull it through, okay, and then grab the yarn and pull it through that loop like that and tie off. That's it. Okay, now these pieces are looking a little bit too long, to be honest, so you can cut your pieces a little bit shorter than that, and I'm going to carry on and do that across the top of his head and hope to goodness that it doesn't look silly once I've finished. So through there like that, pull it there like that, pull it through and pull it through. Okay, and carry on doing that now, pulling those tight so they anchor in to the top of the head there. So carry on doing that until you think you've got enough. You can use what I'm doing as a guide by all means. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm going to try and put another, if I've got them, 5 behind to give him a little clump of hair. So I'm going to go in between the other two, so I'm going to stagger them slightly. Don't ask me why, I don't know. It just strikes me as a good thing to do. Last one now. There we are, they're all secure. They're way too long, way too long. But what we're going to do now with each piece of yarn like this, we're going to split it into its parts to make it a little more fuzzy, like that, okay? So go ahead now and split all the yarn into its tiny little pieces. If it's 3-ply or whatever, you'll get 3 strands and so on, so on. So split it down as much as you can. I might trim mine first because I don't need all that length. It's way too much. So I'm going to snip it to about 4 centimeters. Crikey, he's had a massive haircut. That's what I'm going to do, and then I'm going to fluff it all and separate it all out, and then we shall have a look at the final reveal of our Roly Poly Piggy. And there's our piggy with a beautiful, beautiful little brown mane in between his ears. Absolutely beautiful. Those eyelashes are divine. So I've got one last little thing that's come to mind, and we'll do that now. And again, an optional extra. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. So this is the last optional extra you've got for your piggy. And I've got a length of brown yarn on my darning needle here, taken from my scraps pile because I can't find any brown yarn anywhere. And what I've done is I've marked out on the underneath of my piggy's snout here 3 pin marks. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this piggy a smile. Now you don't have to, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in on the right hand side of the cheek and come out on my first pin there, like that. That's my first move. Leave a tail, about a 4-inch tail left there. I can pull that one out. Then we're going to go to the middle one and insert the needle and come out on the left hand pin. Like that, or thereabouts. Okay, there, like that. Now at this point we can take these pins out, we don't need them anymore. So reinsert the needle back into the middle one and squidge your little piggy a little bit to bring your needle back out the hole that you entered in first time. Okay, so pull that needle through. Like that. And then we're going to end up with a little smile. We may need to plump your stuffing a little bit there. While I was concentrating I couldn't speak. So that's an option if you want to. If you don't want to add the smile, you don't have to. I kind of like the little smile, pulling a little tighter there, and if you look at the piggy head on like that, it does actually look really, really cute that he's got a little smile underneath his snout there. But again, that's totally your choice. To finish off, you just knot and bury your tails. So 2 nice little tight knots there like that, and bury the tails inside, making sure that you put your needle through the same hole again so that it pulls that knot inside and hides it inside the stuffing. Okay, so do that with both tails, and then we can definitely say that our piggy is done if you've decided to do the smile on the underneath there. I did have a look at doing it in pink, but it didn't look quite right, so I've stayed with the brown theme to keep the palette running in the same theme. So all we need to do now is trim those off, push that back and trim those off, and that's it. We can plump our yarn a little bit there like that, and there's our little beautiful little piggy smile. He's such a happy little boy. So there's our piggy. I hope you love him. I absolutely think he's adorable, and I'm so pleased that it just came out of my head and I've worked with this with you today. So that's even better for me. It's like you're in the room with me and we're working this pattern out together. So thanks for joining me. I really do hope that you love this little piggy. He is beautiful. And don't forget to check out the Roly Poly Pussycat as well that I put up a short time ago. And if you like this video, please don't forget to tag me in all the knitting groups on Facebook and on Instagram and all the other social platforms. That would be absolutely amazing, because sharing the video really does bring some extra traffic to my YouTube channel and helps me keep bringing you these lovely patterns which you can enjoy. And again, I always say it, but please, if you can spare a few pounds to a local no-kill animal shelter or charity near to you, that would really mean the world to me. And a little piggy as well. So I'll see you very, very soon with another exciting pattern. Bye for now. Hwyl fawr. Oh, and the word for pig in Welsh is mochyn. That's a mouthful. Bye.